Now, do you hit the press record, Joe, to accept that recording?
I just accepted it. Yep.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm over here. It's Bobby C with Anonymous Addiction at My Truth About AA, as Bobby C sees it. Okay, just a disclaimer. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a shrink. Uh, I'm not a lawyer, a doctor, an Indian chief. All I am is a person that's been experiencing 37 years of this thing they call recovery, but I call it my life journey. And we're going to be talking about a lot of different topics. Joey C. I'm gonna pass it over to Joey C. And he's going to kind of tell you where you can connect with him. But Joey's my co-host, and he's going to be coming on here. He's going to be a reoccurring guest all the time because we have the other podcast subscribe to Alcoholics Anonymous Deprogramming Podcast, and you'll get all the skinny and all the controversial stuff that you'll never hear anywhere in a 12-step meeting anywhere in the world. So come join us there. And also, we're going to be talking about a lot of different topics. So stay tuned. This is a new channel. This is our first podcast. And we're on Instagram. Joey's on Instagram. I'm on Instagram at My Truth About AA. I'm on Facebook, Anonymous Addiction, My Truth About AA, as Bobby C sees it. Joey and I have an Anchor, Spotify. We're on there. So check us out on all different platforms and on social media if you want. If not, whatever. Back to you, Joey.
Yeah, this is Joey C, Bobby C's main man for a while now. Joey C from the Brutally Sober podcast, which hasn't had an episode in about a month. But don't worry, I'm in between seasons right now, I guess. Listen, I'm a little busy right now. I got things going on. That's another reason why we're kind of, moving back and forth. We're all over the place. Me and Bobby C are doing this channel now. We're going to be going back to Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous Deprogramming Podcast also. But also check us out here because we're always switching it up and keeping it fresh. And if you're just tuning into this channel for the first time, I'm Joey C. I've been sober for almost 2 years now. Haven't been to an AA meeting I just started hitting up a couple meetings within the past 2 weeks, but before then I hadn't been to an AA meeting in like a year or so. And every day I don't drink. And me and Bobby C were just chatting before we started recording here, and Bobby C asked me when the last time I thought about drinking was, and I said it was yesterday. But that was only for a second. And maybe later today I'm going to think about drinking. But it's only going to be for a second and I'll let it go. Just like, I think about a lot of things during the day. I think about good things. I think about bad things. Sometimes I have a thought into my head. That cloud just happens to be the thought of drinking, but it goes right past. Now, Bobby C asked me, Joe, when's the last time you considered picking up a drink? I would say that was a long time ago. Have I seriously considered picking up a drink recently? No. Last time I considered picking up a drink was when I actually picked up a drink. Whenever that last beer was that I physically picked up a drink, that was the last time I considered it. I did it. I executed on it. Went down the hatch. Last time I considered picking up a drink was the last time I picked up a drink. So that's a little bit about me. And yeah, this is a new show, first episode. And me and Bobby C are very extemporaneous. If you don't know what that means, look it up. Prepare too much. I never prepare too much. I like to wing it.
That's
so
right.
we're just gonna see what happens.
That's right, Joey C. Joey C's over there on the East Coast. I'm over here on the West Coast. And we do our thing. We're just having fun. You know what? we're going to like, this program is going to be like, I'm going to say it. Alcohol, anonymous addiction is going to be the new AA. I'm just going to come right out and say it. And what I mean by that is we're going to try to get away from labels on this podcast. We're going to try to get away from, there's no God talk. It's not religion. So we're getting away from religion. We're getting away from steps. We're getting away from books. We're getting away from the labels. We're getting away from volunteer. I mean, we don't need no volunteers to come and do our programs. We're not looking for any, you don't need any, we're not going to put any fear, guilt, shame on you, okay, to do anything, because this podcast is going to be the true power of choice, and it's going to be about freedom, okay, freedom without labels, freedom to create our own program. This podcast is about freedom to create our own program. And I'm not saying if you're new, you're forced into treatment center. You're going to, first you're in detox, then you go over to treatment center. They're going to kind of program you into the 12-step philosophy. Then they're going to, maybe you'll send you to AA. And so this podcast is kind of helping deprogramming people from Alcoholics Anonymous, antiquated 86-year-old mythology. And it's going to help people that are staying in Alcoholics Anonymous, so they expand their consciousness. It's going to help people just coming in, sent by courts or their parents. It's going to help people that plan on leaving, plan on exiting, or people that already have left Alcoholics Anonymous. So we're going to be talking about a lot of different things. A lot of it's going to be controversial, which is kind of good. I think it's a good thing. And so I want you to stay tuned and subscribe, because this is new, and we're going to really be talking about a lot of different things, a lot of new things. Okay. Back to you, Joey. What you got to say on that?
Yeah, I don't have much to say on that. That's pretty much what we're doing. What I wanted to. Did you want to go over maybe a little bit about my personal stuff, where I'm at, what my gig is, where you want to go, what do we want to do?
Yeah, go there, because a lot of people are going to say, "Oh, are you in the big book and all the how it works and all that? Are you a real alcoholic? Or are you just a moderate drinker, or did you really have problems with alcohol?" Because I can separate it. If you're not really working the steps and doing everything that we suggest in Alcoholics Anonymous, then you probably aren't a real alcoholic. So you could briefly share about that and let the public know that you qualify for this stuff. And, maybe I'll share a little bit about it too. Back to you, Joe.
Well, I'll share. First of all, I just got kicked out of the living room because my wife gave me the side eye.
Okay, cool.
So any little thing like that in the past when I was drinking would have pissed me off so bad. I would have had to sneak out into the garage and pound a 6-pack. You know what I mean?
I hear you. I hear you.
There's a little bit of qualification right there. But you know what? First of all, I'm not going to say I'm an alcoholic. I actually say I'm an alcoholic because it's convenient, but I'm not worried about convincing anyone whether I qualify for anything or not. I'm just sharing my experience. So, because I know that drinking doesn't work for me, because I tried it so many times. And now this is what I'm saying right now is shit that you will hear probably in an AA meeting. But the fact is, for me, that I kept trying to drink successfully, and it just never worked out. And I just would try, and I would try, and I would try, and then there would be times that I could go. I had a good run with controlled drinking, and I wasn't getting into trouble, and I wasn't missing work, and I was getting by But I was waking up, and wouldn't be feeling great, and all day I could never live in the present because I was just waiting to get home to to drink. When I was drinking, I was never able to be present because you're always waiting. If you're not drinking, you're waiting till you can drink. It's just like it's an obsession. So that shit that that's the kind of shit that I've been through, and that's not an uncommon thing. I mean, you hear people say that all the time in AA, but um, after while I was in a rehab facility, I kind of got like sucked out of my body for just a second. I mean, not really, but like I was picturing myself like in the room I was in the rehab, and I looked at myself, and I was Joe in rehab, and I just realized there's not really any. I'm not going back. I'm not going back to drinking Joe. It's just I'm a different. I crossed some kind of threshold that I wasn't gonna step back from, and I knew that I crossed that threshold, and I just was gonna keep moving forward with this new identity or perception or whatever it is you want to call it that I like created for myself that in that instant. That's the best way I can describe it.
Let me jump in there real quick, Joey. I hope I don't disturb your train of thought, but I'm going to bounce back real quick because you bring good points. Would you consider that like rational, logical epiphany that and maybe possibly spiritual in a sense?
I would, yeah, I would. This I wouldn't describe it as spiritual, but I think it it is spiritual a little bit, but I probably wouldn't use that word. It just no, maybe I should use the word spiritual when describing it because there's also, I guess what makes more sense to me when describing it is a shift of consciousness.
Okay, so good. Okay, good. That is a shift of consciousness, which I agree with that. So here's the point I'm trying to make is that in Alcoholics Anonymous, they tell you and they tell us in the how it works that after the 12 steps, you shall have a spiritual awakening. Okay. So in that description, if you're in Alcoholics Anonymous, would you tend to agree that you've had this prior to you even coming into Alcoholics Anonymous?
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing that what this experience that I had is probably what the people in AA refer to as a spiritual experience. So that's probably what they're referring to. What I went through. I just don't like to call it a spiritual experience, but
That's good. No, that's good. That's because you're kind of, the labels can tend to, people can judge us by labels that we put upon ourselves. So I agree with that. That word spirituality can, I use it, but only the people that really understand where I'm coming from can understand that word that I use to describe what I sense, feel, and it's all about. But getting back to like the spiritual awakening, they're saying the 12 steps, they had the spiritual awakening. I too had that. I remember when I said yes to help. And on a lot of my podcasts, I talk about saying yes to help. I believe that was a spiritual awakening for me because things happened after that, but it was me. I take credit for saying yes. So when people tend to say, oh, Bobby, you're talking about spiritual stuff. You're talking almost like God stuff. No, it was me. I take the responsibility. I take the credit for saying yes to help. It was presented to me, and all the outside exterior things could be considered uh, out of my control, which were pointers to me saying yes. Okay. So I don't deny that either, because my wife was a big part of it, because she didn't try to, at the end, she didn't try to force me. She didn't try to force me. Circumstances uh, put some fire under my ass, and I became aware, just like I would say you sensed this epiphany, and you became aware of shit. I'm a new Joey C.
Hmm. Yeah, and I don't know. Maybe it's just it could have been just like these different stages in your life. You know, you're a teenager, you're in your 20s, you're in your 30s, you're hitting 40. You're I don't know. You go kind of go through different phases, and maybe this was just one that I just acknowledged. I don't know. I mean, I could try and describe it as many different ways as I could all day long, but
I think you described it perfectly. Okay, so you were in the rehab and you had this epiphany. Go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry. I just wanted to bounce that back to the audience.
yeah, yeah. I forgot my train of thought.
Yeah,
I
you were in the rehab, and just something happened to you and said, "No, that's not for me. That ain't Joey C. That drinking stuff."
yeah. And I don't know if I was like maybe I was a little bit maybe I was a little bit relieved. Um, but I didn't really have a huge desire to drink after that. But I mean, for the next for next 2.5 weeks, I was still in the rehab, and then coming home, I didn't really I didn't really have a huge desire to drink. So I don't really know what it was. I mean, I guess maybe it was just that mind shift that, and you see yourself differently, or you just know that this is the time that you have to be a different person and do things differently. Because I always knew that I had to. There was gonna. I always knew that I needed to stop. That I was gonna. I always knew that I was gonna stop drinking, but I didn't know why I was gonna stop drinking. It was either gonna be because it was gonna be for health reasons, where I was gonna be forced to do it, or it was gonna be something because something really horrible happened because of my drinking, and then that was going to force me to stop drinking. Um, so I always knew something was going to happen, but I didn't think that the thing that was going to happen to make me stop drinking was going to be just a simple mind shift. Now, granted, I was in rehab. You know, that's a kind of I guess that's a big deal because I never thought I was going to be in a rehab. But going to rehab isn't the worst thing that could have happened to me. Okay, I was just sitting in a room. I wasn't in any kind of danger or nothing like that. I just had a mind shift. So I never looked back from that. But I also kept I didn't want to lose the feeling of I wanted to keep that shift in that direction. My mind shifted. I wanted to keep it in that direction. So when I went out of rehab, I went to AA meetings. I went to a shit ton of them because I was still trying to find work, so I had the time to go to like a couple a day. Um, and I started going online and meeting um, people on social media. I met Bobby C. I started doing a podcast. I started reading a lot of books, and then the pandemic hit, and meetings were shut down, And then I started doing Zoom meetings, and then like I'm sitting in front of the computer listening to people while my cat's jumping on the kitchen counter eating our dinner, and then I had to get up off the chair and do this and do that, so I couldn't concentrate on that. But I did enough work out of rehab um, to keep the shift in the same direction that I was on a I was I was moving. Even if I wasn't going to meetings, I was already on that trail. I was already deep on that path. I had enough momentum. I had given myself enough momentum. If I don't have a meeting for a day or a week or a month or a year, I'm still okay. So it wasn't the meetings helped, but the meetings weren't what was keeping me sober, it seems like, because I have a whole new shift of, of consciousness. And I wish I knew how to tell people how to do that. I I don't. I guess I'm just lucky that that's how it worked out. Or maybe people need to realize where they're at. But I'm not going to tell people that because I don't know how the fuck I did it. All I know is I was sitting there and I'm like, shit, I'm not going back to what I was. I'm moving forward because there's no going back from where I am now. So I guess I'm just uh, um, I'm lucky, and I'm conscious of my surroundings and my and the cause and effect, and that if I keep drinking, bad things are going to happen. And I know that I used to drink all the fucking time, and I couldn't drink like a normal person, like they say. And I'm I, I I'm going to stop trying to make it work. It's taken too much fucking energy out of me to try and make drinking work. It just doesn't work for me. It's too much fucking work. It's too much work for me to want to fucking deal with. It's easier for me to just not fucking drink. That's basically what I figured out. Rather than just keep trying to get into the fucking ring and fight with alcohol every time I pick it up, I'm just gonna fucking I'm gonna choose my battles, as they say. And I'm not gonna fucking it's too much fucking work for me. I don't feel like dealing with all the fucking bullshit. Let's throw away all the spiritual experience, throw away 12 steps, throw away whatever kind of fucking uh spiritual program bullshit you want to say. All that is great. All that's great. But even in the very least, for me, it's too much fucking work. It's exhausting. I don't want to work that fucking hard at something that I'm clearly not good at. So I'm done. It's too much fucking work for me. Maybe that's what I realized. Maybe that was my shift. So it's a lot easier. Yeah, sometimes I want to drink. Does that last long? No, it doesn't, because I guess I'm tired. I got tired. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. Okay. So maybe I'll end it with a fucking AA slogan. I guess I got sick and tired of being sick and tired.
I don't even know if that's an AA slogan or not. All I know is that listening to what you just told the viewers and myself is that it's almost like a natural occurrence of a human being when they want to shift from insane to sane, or from unhappy to happy, or from too much work to less work. I mean, hearing you share is almost like a testimony to validate my belief about this podcast, is that you have created your own program. Okay? You were responsible. I don't care what label anyone wants to put on it. And you're like, you just shared that you don't need any labels. Okay? Everything you expressed didn't really have any in it, you know. And I really like that. I really enjoyed listening to that, and I know the viewers are going to enjoy it because, you know, that's what this is all about. It was honest, and it was authentic and spontaneous, and that's what this program's going to be about, ladies and gentlemen. So subscribe. Wait till you hear all. This is just a touch. We're just touching on this whole thing here. Okay. But yes, I really enjoyed hearing that because of the honesty. And that's what I like about you. And that's why I kind of keep on coming back to sharing on this podcast with you. You know, I enjoy it. We get along good together and we bounce things off to each other. And so you're validating my whole existence, really. And I think this whole thing, we've been talking for pretty long time now. We've been having this podcast for a long time. And I think these things are like, I consider this an experiment, or this is a life experience in front of, it's almost like maybe I could see back then what was going to happen a year from now. And I guarantee 5 years from now, it's going to even be, you know, it's going to be even more revealing to me. You know, but this podcast is like a living life journey. Forget the word recovery, recovering, sobriety. You know, sobriety just means not drinking, not drunk. You know, forget these different labels because that's what this program's about. Even though we do need labels, but very good, Joey. I can relate. I can relate to all this stuff because you know, I could tell you right now. Let's see, 37 years ago. I'm just saying this because not to tip my hat, but I mean it's good to show people that I've been around the industry. Let's just say the industry or this life journey. I've been on this life journey. They call recovery. I call life journey for 37 years. February 27th, 1984. I happened to raise my hand, not in a meeting, but I just said help. I said yes. I raised my hand and I said yes. Bring that guy around. And on my podcast on Anchor, I have podcasts that say when I said yes to help, that was the beginning. But actually, the beginning was when I was born. You know, this is just a journey. It's an experience. Joe and I believe that we all have right now. Time is just experience, good, bad, and everything in between. And we're just sharing these things along the way. I do believe that people will say, well, you put yourself on a pedestal. Maybe you think you know a little bit more about everybody else. Well, shit, if that wasn't true, why in the hell people go from 12th grade to college? Or why do they get their associate degree or master's degree or doctorate degree? Do they know more? Well, they do know more about that specific thing. And I know probably more about my life journey about this thing they call recovery because I've been on it a long, long time. And so I'm not a professional, but I'm a professional in the sense of my own experience, you know, this professionalism, you know, I don't buy all that either. So a lot of the podcasts, we're going to be talking about all kinds of controversial things. Joey, see if you can keep time on this because they told me I only had 40 minutes on this thing. So what do you think we're at?
Well, we're gonna be coming up because we start about 1 o'clock and it's 1:38. So we probably should be wrapping it up, I guess.
Yeah, next podcast next week, or I think we're going to switch it up. And next podcast, I'll share a little bit more, and Joey and I will hopefully Joey will join me next week or during this week. Joey just got a new job. That's another thing I was talking about. This thing we're doing right here is our life journey. We're living life. We're living life. And like Joey said, he mentioned it earlier. He said, boy, I wouldn't have been able to do this if my wife said that before. I would have went out to the shed and drank a 6-pack, you know, pound down a couple brewskis, you know, because she pissed me off because she had a request, you know, and I can relate to that 100%.
Yeah.
So this learning experience we're talking about is we're growing, we're getting tools, we're getting strategies to cope with life on life's terms, you know. And that's what this podcast is all about, you know. It's me learning, Joey learning, and hopefully the audience will learn. So stay tuned, everyone, for the next podcast of Anonymous Addiction, My Truth About AA, as Bobby C sees it. And that's as Joey C sees it. And I'd like to say hi to my granddaughter, Chessie B, and Chuck E, who helped me kind of hook up with some things when to get my platforms kind of tweaked up. And thanks to Joey, because he's been helping me all along on this podcast stuff. Joey's a big technical producer. He's one of the technical producers. Okay. So, Joey, you want to sign off?
Yeah. Joey C here signing off. Another Saturday with Bobby C, part of my program. And check me out. I'm Brutally Sober. You can find it on Spotify or anywhere else you listen to podcasts. Like I said, I haven't done one in a little while, but I'm in a little bit of a lifestyle change here. All right, I'm in between jobs. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. Everybody, get off my back, okay?
That's right.
Check it out. Brutally Sober.
Subscribe.
Check
Subscribe.
out me and Bobby C, Alcoholics Anonymous Deprogramming Podcast. Check out Bobby C on Facebook. We're all over the place, and we're gonna be doing this.
Come join us on the next podcast, the new AA, Anonymous Addiction. And I say that, you know, it's just going to be something different. We're going to kind of really unrail this thing and show you how different it's going to be during the podcast, but I don't want to let it all out right now. Take care, everyone. Joey?
Take care, everybody.
We'll see you later, buddy. Let's see if I could press stop. There we go.